Today's intermittent fasting is the topic for our education series. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what intermittent fasting is and is it beneficial? What are the positives and also what are the negatives? Are there any reasons why you shouldn't intermittent fast? And what is the evidence out there? So we are going to dive in. Any questions that you guys have got on this topic, please forward them towards the group chat, or you can send me a private message and we can talk about it a little bit more and see again if it's something that might be beneficial for you. So firstly, why might we do intermittent fasting? So I guess here we could talk about the obvious because it's quite a popular type of, you could call it a diet perhaps, or it could be seen as a tool for creating weight loss. And also, there is some evidence to say that it can help regulate blood glucose levels as well. It's definitely something that has been popularized, and you may know people that have had great success from doing intermittent fasting. And your GP may have recommended it as well. So there could be various reasons why you choose to do intermittent fasting. And if I'm honest with you, a lot of it is going to depend on you as an individual, if it works for you and if it's something that you can fit into your lifestyle. So let's dive in. Right, so firstly, the types of intermittent fasting that we have. We've got the 5-2 diet. So the 5-2 effectively is you would eat normally for 5 days of the week. And then for 2 of those days, you would have between 500 or 600 calories per day. Now, if you are going to be eating 500 or 600 calories a day, the drawbacks for this would be feeling tired, fatigued, irritable. Is it really a sustainable way of doing things? Does your lifestyle allow you to work through that? And could it in some ways make the other 5 days, perhaps maybe cause you to overindulge, especially if you are not tracking those 5 days. So my personal recommendation, if you was to do something like this and you wanted to get the weight loss, the fat loss, you wanted to put yourself into a true calorie deficit, you could do the 2 days at 500 to 600 calories a day. Takes a lot of mental focus and determination to get through this. But on the 5 days, I would personally recommend maybe sitting around maintenance. And that way, you know that you are going to get the most out of those 2 days that you are effectively in a very extreme calorie deficit. Moving on, we've got the more popular and more well-known 16-8. So effectively what this means, and most of you might be familiar with this, is that you would be eating during an 8-hour window. So the 8 hours, you might go 12 till 8, because for most of us, those tend to be the hours of the day that perhaps maybe we require energy to help our mental focus at work. Perhaps you're training within those hours. So again, it's going to be lifestyle dependent. And there are quite a few breakfast skippers as well out here. So the 16-8 might work for you. And the 16, they're the other hours of the 24-hour period that you would be effectively fasting for. And I would probably say that that's a lot easier to do than the 5-2. But again, I'm going to bring it back and say, you've got to be mindful of what you're having within those 8 hours. The idea is, by effectively doing 12 till 8, you could be skipping breakfast. That would be like one less meal. So if you're somebody that's having 3 meals a day, you're taking out a meal and you're creating a calorie deficit because you're only having 2 meals. Now, if you are spending that 16-18 routine eating in a surplus, overeating, and perhaps maybe in your mind you're thinking none of it matters, I'm eating for just 8 hours, I'll eat as much as I like, and whatever I feel good for, that again could be detrimental. If you are doing it and you're not tracking, personally, try and avoid lots of snacking. Try and break your fast with a larger meal. So let's say, for example, you are in a calorie deficit and your target to put you into a calorie deficit is 1,800 calories, okay? Now, for example, you might start 12 o'clock, you might start with a nice big meal. You might have a meal that's about 800 calories. And then let's say you might snack in the afternoon, and that could be another 200 to 300 calories. And if I'm doing my maths correctly, you might be left with 8 or 900 calories for the evening meal. So in that essence, or in that sense there, you could be creating that calorie deficit that you are after. Now, if, for example, you have 3 large meals, you're going to be in a surplus. Okay. I won't spend too much time on that one. I think it's quite understandable. Hopefully, if you've got any questions, please send them across. The next one on the list is something that you might not be familiar with, and this is alternate fasting or alternate day fasting. So the idea is you would, eat at maintenance on one day, and then the next day you would fast, and then the next day you would eat. That's ideally, you would create a huge, a ton of, weight loss with doing that. But you ask yourself the question, will you be able to move, function, train, go to work, look after the kids, go and do the cleaning, the shopping, whatever it is that you need to do to get through your day. If you are alternate day fasting, on those fasting days, you're probably more likely to rest a bit more. You're probably not going to want to move as much. Your non-exercise activity levels are going to be a lot lower than if you were adequately fueling yourself. So alternate day fasting, I'm not a massive fan of. And that's probably why we've not heard much about it. The last one on the list is 24-hour fasting. So 24-hour fasting, that generally tends to happen maybe once or twice a month. It sounds quite bizarre. I think perhaps this might be there might be a tendency for people to opt for this if they are fasting, for charity, or if they're fasting for a cause. It seems to be something that would be motivated by that. So again, the idea there is, if you're doing a 24-hour fast and you're doing it, a couple of times a month, there could be some benefits there. But it seems like quite extreme. And again, are you thinking about what you're having overall? Okay, cool. So let's move on to the next slide. All right, let's say that you pick one of these fasting options. You choose not to stick to a calorie target of any sort. So whether that is a surplus, maintenance, or a deficit. Now, obviously a deficit, you are going to get weight loss, you're going to get fat loss, you are going to be reducing, you know, you're going to be reducing your calories, you'll be taking in less, so you're more likely to, you know, to show up on the scales lighter, right? Let's say, for example, you opt for the very popular 16-8. So from midday to 8 o'clock, you decide to eat like this picture on the left. Are you going to lose weight, guys? I mean, are you going to shift the scales? Is this adequate enough for you to, you know, perhaps maybe this might put you in a surplus. But let's say you are someone who is not dieting and you're bulking, and perhaps maybe you want this, I don't know, the benefits, the health benefits that come along. Is this really the picture of health on the left? Donuts, chocolates, these sort of cookies with some sort of fondant or jam in the middle. There's a lot of fun in this picture. Burgers, fries, onion rings, and tortilla chips. I think you can all agree with me and say, basically, no, you are going to be putting yourself at risk of, you know, vitamin and mineral deficiencies. So although you might be eating like this and think, yes, I'm in a surplus, there could be some very key nutrients that you are missing out on. So it's not just to say that people on a diet or in a diet phase need to be mindful about what they're putting in their body. So yes, we do look at calories as the overall, you know, that's a great point to start at, but it's also the quality of those calories that we are putting in our bodies. So I like this picture on the right, but you know, it doesn't satisfy everyone. I mean, this bowl of chocolate pudding with bananas and stuff might satisfy those of you with a bit of a sweet tooth. But again, you know, even by eating like this, although it looks like the picture of health and you might get wonderful vitamin and mineral, you know, benefits here, are you truly in a deficit? So you could be overeating here. I mean, it looks great, right? But this looks like a hummus and avocado. They are both very, very rich in micronutrients, but they are very calorific. So who knows? This might even suit someone on a bulk. Who knows? Okay. But yeah, that's the question, really. There are lots of questions you need to ask yourselves. So this picture in here could be seen as a form of fasting, and it looks pretty extreme to me, to be fair. And I guess it's just more of like, you know, looking at ways that people might fast. Now, let's just ignore the fact that there is banana, orange slices, and apple on this breakfast picture, the first picture on the left. Let's think about or imagine that this is a great big English breakfast. Say it's a big English breakfast, and that English breakfast is about 1,000 calories, right? But it's full of all your eggs, bacon, your beans, your sourdough bread. Oh, well, I don't know if you get sourdough with an English breakfast, but you get some toast, right? It's got all the things that you might look at and go, they're really unhealthy. But if we are looking not at a, you know, micronutrient perspective here, or even a macronutrient perspective, we are looking at overall calories. If this picture was an English breakfast and it was 1,200 calories, and then you fasted for lunch and dinner, you would most likely be in, we're still going on the premise that 1,800 calories puts you in a deficit, or perhaps maybe that's your maintenance. By having this great big English breakfast of 1,200 calories, and let's say you're moving the same, so you're training, you're getting your steps in, you're getting 10,000 steps a day, you're training and lifting heavy resistance 3 to 4 times a week, then yes, you will make progress and the scales will come down. The same could be said if you decided to fast for breakfast, fast for dinner, but have an enormous lunch. Okay. Ignore the fact that we've got a salad there and fruit. Just kind of think that the idea is, you know, fasting. It could be, there's so many different ways of doing it. I much prefer a more balanced way of doing things. And the benefits of calorie and macro tracking is not to say that you just eat your calories of, you know, protein and junk food. You try and create a full picture. So, you know, I like to think of it as including a little bit of what you like each day, not restricting yourself, having a balanced diet, having things that are going to fuel you. Yes, you could be, you know, might have you in that small calorie deficit. That's where we're going to create change. Yes, it might be a little bit difficult, but you are not going to drive yourself insane and force yourself to start binging or having these cheat days. None of us are, you know, machines like The Rock. Yeah. Like Dwayne Johnson, he can do that. He can eat however many pizzas and all sorts of junk food on one cheat day and look amazing the next. Unfortunately, for most of us, that is not the case. It's not sustainable and it's not a healthy way of doing things. So, you know, we can build up the picture of the week or even the day of, you know, including small treats. You know, perhaps maybe you've got a Nutella on toast and you're going to have it with a, you know, a protein powder fix. Perhaps maybe you'll opt for some lean protein and go for a nice dessert with some fruit, again, some nice micronutrients. Or, you know, perhaps maybe, you know, you might want to have a little snack of sweets, or perhaps maybe alcohol is your thing that you feel like you need to include. And again, let's be mindful with the alcohol. We're thinking about recommendations over the week. What is a safe and, you know, realistic goal or target for you to achieve? So we just want to kind of build up this picture of health. Right. So I think that is pretty much mostly it for me, but just going to summarize here for you guys. Calorie deficit. Okay, if you are looking at weight loss, we want to make sure that our food choices, they, you know, we're not in such a harsh deficit to start with, but our food choices come first, right? So we want, you know, lean protein sources, we want fiber, you know, we want, you know, good carbohydrates, healthy fats. We want to have a little bit of what we like as well, because we shouldn't, you know, detach ourselves from anything that we see as bad or unhealthy. You know, food is there to enjoy within reason. And so it's just about trying to create that nice, healthy lifestyle. So food choices are really important. We want to satisfy, even in a deficit or even in a surplus. So whether you are trying to lose weight or gain weight, we want to satisfy macronutrients, micronutrients, all your vitamins and your minerals, your fiber as well. All of those things are really, really important. And guys, if you are opting for the fasting lifestyle, let's say we go for the 16-8, so the, you know, the 12 till 8 window, or however it works for your lifestyle, it is going to be hard at first. It takes a little bit of time for you to get used to. So with anything and any choices that we make, it's all about trying to make it sustainable, realistic, and applying consistency. Consistency is what is going to get you the results. So you need to wait. You've got to give things time. You've got to stay consistent. And this is why we are all in this together, guys. I am here as your motivator. And yes, you want to make sure that you've got good energy availability to get through your training, right? Anyway, any questions? I did say at the beginning, but any questions, please ask in the group or DM me if it's private. For example, if it's an, you know, a direction or a lifestyle choice that you think might suit you, you think that intermittent fasting may work for you, let's go for it. There are benefits to it, you know, there are sort of, you know, health benefits. You know, we could look at things like, you know, blood sugar level. It can help with that. It could be useful for people. It can have a positive effect on that. You could have better sleep. Some people might report, you know, improved gut health, for example, especially if you're allowing your digestive system to have some time to rest. So you're not using or just constantly driving work. Your body's not constantly having to digest food. It can improve gut health. It can improve your sleep. We're always looking at things like, you know, improving other markers of health, so lower blood pressure, cardiovascular risks, that sort of thing. Again, depending on the type of foods that we are putting in our bodies. And I did talk about this very briefly, or I may have mentioned it at the beginning, but when we are thinking about safety, if you have a history of disordered eating, and we haven't quite tackled that, then it's not going to be a good idea. So you are, you know, there are other ways of dealing with that. And if there are issues with you kind of going into a sort of a binge and then a restriction cycle, fasting might not be the best idea for you. If you are pregnant as well, not a good idea. And I believe type 1 diabetes, it might not be the best idea either, but there is some research to say that it can help those people that might be pre-diabetic into type 2. So yeah, there's lots to consider. Again, any questions, fire them in the group. And just a reminder, guys, our weekly Zooms are every Wednesday at 8 p.m. and they are hosted by me, Ritu. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you guys here next week. And please, as always, send through your topic requests, anything that you want us to discuss or talk about. At the end of the day, it's all here for your benefit. But yeah, I will leave you with that now, and we will stop the recording.